So what's really important now is thinking about your digital workplace and all of those tools that you have and how they overlap, which ones are the right ones to do what.
Lead is a remote-first company based out of Canada.
What makes a world-class Microsoft 365 intranet and digital workplace?
What is employee experience? Why does it matter? And maybe what is it not about? So we'll actually start with you, James. I know you have a lot of experience in talking about this. I'd love to get your perspective on, what is employee experience and why does it matter today?
Yeah, look, so I guess the starting point is to go back just half a step to say, okay, customer experience. Customer experience we all get, right? I mean, any large organization, take your typical bank, has long recognized that, okay, everyone is selling the same products and services. So it's how you provide them to your customers. It is that total experience that you have with your customer. And there have been customer experience teams who have started with fixing the websites and then have gone on to improve the mobile app. And then have gone all the way through to changing how the way bank branches are laid out and the paper forms. So if we say, okay, customer experience is something that is critically important, then immediately we should be asking ourselves, yeah, but what about employee experience? And if it's about, customer experience is about interactions across all of these touch points, then it's the same story internally. So employee experience, and I guess what we're talking about today, in particular, digital employee experience, that has the very catchy word DEX, which is what I love so much about it. So digital employee experience is the total of the digital interactions within the organization. And that's not just between the organization and the employee, but it's also about employees with each other, because that's obviously a lot of what we're focusing on here is things like collaboration capabilities. And so that's where it's not mediated by the organization, but is crucially important. And if that's then the case, that then allows us to fit the pieces together. So if we go on to the next slide, yep. I'm still not seeing them progress on my side.
It's on this slide. Yep.
So then we can say, okay, intranets. So intranets, look, are not dead. That's probably one of the things to start with. They've been told that they're dead on and off multiple times over the last 20 years. So, I'm still passionate about intranets. I'm an intranerd like Suzie is, and intranets are a thing. Now, either you have a terrible intranet and you want to fix it, or, you've migrated into SharePoint Online and you have a lovely, clean, modern intranet. And that's, good and worthy work that needs to be done. But the intranet is just one thing within the broader digital workplace. And so the digital workplace is the collection of all the digital tools and platforms for work across the organization. Everyone has a digital workplace. It's not something that you deliver. We've all had digital workplaces since the introduction of Word and email. Again, either they're simple, seamless, clear, productive, usable for work, or it's an enormous mess of applications as far as the eye can see. And so there's a lot of work to be done here. And the digital workplace is very much a technology consideration. So how are we going to integrate systems? How are we going to connect them together? A single sign-on, all of this sort of stuff. And so that's the digital workplace. And again, things like Microsoft 365 have brought into the digital workplace a huge spread of amazingly good, modern, productive tools. But there's still one piece missing in all of these discussions, and that's the human in the picture. right? So this is where digital employee experience comes in. So the human in the picture, how do they not just use individual tools, not only just how do those tools fit together in a way that is experienced by the employee, but also the full context that sits around them, where they are located, what device they are using, the cultural context around stuff. And it's the human in the picture that makes all the difference about whether people are delighted to be working, whether they are productive and effective with each other, and actually are probably coming full circle. It's critical for customer experience because you can't deliver a better customer experience than your employee experience. And something that anyone who's worked with people in a bank call center will attest. So, okay, so if those then are the three pieces that fit together, there's still stuff that we have to dive into more on this. And so this is where we introduced StepTwo, the DEX Enterprise Framework about a year ago, I guess. And it looks across 6 components with the idea that organizations can say, how are we doing in each of these 6 components? Where are we strong? Where are we weak? Where do we need to plug the gaps so that we can deliver holistically the experience that we need? Now, obviously, this starts with leadership, both in terms of the overall strategy for digital employee experience, the recognition by senior leaders, but also the resourcing and support that is given to this within organizations. Then coming into play is then the culture of the organization. And so this is where we talk about things like digital dexterity, where we might have talked about digital literacy before, which we don't, by the way, now, because it's kind of a bit, well, it's a bit insulting, right? I mean, you know, it's not like we have any of our employees who are illiterate. You know, they are not incapable of working. So it's not about digital literacy, it's about digital dexterity. And that's about how effective people are with using the tools, how much they have got good practices working with each other, how consistent are behaviors across the organization, and how much people are engaged with both the digital tools within the organization and the organization more widely. The next part is then the capability. So this is around, well, what are the skills and resources? You know, is there a digital workplace team, or if, even for that matter, a digital employee experience team? You know, what is the skills that are available within the organization? So, for example, one of the key skills is, well, human-centered design. You know, as it has been, right? But now applying that to more than just ensuring people can find things on the intranet, we want to apply the full spectrum of human-centered design methodologies to all of our systems, as well as just the content on the intranet. The technology, obviously, we're going to be talking a bit about today. Because this is a key component in terms of delivering an effective digital employee experience. And so this is about the platforms, Microsoft 365 being the most obvious one. It's about the solutions that are built on top of that. But it's actually, again, about some of the methodologies. So things like product management methodologies that, again, have been understood tremendously well in a customer-facing space where things are continuously iterated and innovated. Well, we need to bring that into our internal environments, to our intranets and to our digital workplaces. The environment then is a consideration. So this has obviously been massively shifted. This is where the pandemic has pushed over all of the chairs and actually helped us all discover that, hey, we actually really can work from home. And that flexibility that was kind of promised to us by management, but they never really allowed it. Well, actually now we're all doing it. And so this is the environments that people are working in. This is this hybrid workplace approaches, which is complex. And we're all still working out. There are no easy answers yet on this. but we're working through it. And it's also just the devices that we're giving to people and all of those practical capabilities we need to put in place. The last piece is then the lived experience. So what does this really look like? If we are working in or for larger organizations, what does this look like for the frontline workforce? And this is something we're going to talk quite a lot about. And Suzie, like myself, is very passionate about. But there's, what is the experience for knowledge workers? What is the experience for managers and leaders? And this is where, all of this is for naught if we are not delivering on the ground the experiences that we need. And so that's some context setting. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Suzie to pick up the baton and keep going.
Thank you very much. Yeah, what a baton to pick up. So that's amazing context setting, as James has said, for digital employee experience. And I want to rewind just ever so slightly to talk about the digital workplace a little bit more broadly. So employee experience is absolutely vital, as James has said. It's about their perspective, their feelings, their reactions to everything that they encounter in their daily lives. So employee experience as a broader term is beyond their digital tools as well. It's actually looking at their daily lives and how they react in their physical environments. And so zooming in a bit on the digital workplace, we tend to use this town plan as a way to explain a digital workplace. And we use a town plan because very rarely do you have the opportunity to start with a green field. If you're looking to set things up, you very rarely have a completely empty space to build your town or to build your intranet or whatever it is you might be choosing to build. You have to work around existing solutions, you have to work around existing buildings, and you need the structures there as well, like roads, in order to connect them together and make them work for whoever's using them. So that's why we tend to use as an analogy of the way that a digital workplace works. And we split it into two areas. So you'll see there are blue boxes and there are green boxes. I'll only mention the green boxes because we're not going to focus on that too much today. But these are the areas, the management areas that you need to keep in mind in order to make your digital workplace a success. So it's things like adoption. It's things like governance. It's those things that are maybe less exciting, but are important, and sometimes get left until the end of maybe a new project or maybe just get forgotten completely. So we encourage people to think about those sorts of things right at the start. If you are looking to do a replacement intranet project, for example, then think about adoption and what budgeting you may need for that right from the start. If you want lovely launch materials, then you may need to factor in that budget, and sometimes that can get overlooked. So that's the 5 management areas. And then the 5 blue areas along the top, they are the different services that a digital workplace delivers. I'm not saying that's what an intranet delivers. An intranet is part of the digital workplace, as James has said, but these are the different areas that a digital workplace will deliver. And what's vitally important is for you to work out when you're looking at something like a new intranet is, what are those capabilities that we need to make sure our intranet is delivering? Where are those areas that it absolutely needs to own those things? If that's formal communication, for example, if it's how your leaders are going to be talking to everybody across the company, then that's something that the intranet absolutely needs to own and needs to deliver. Whereas if you look at something like collaboration, Microsoft Teams, I mean, we're using it right now, is massive, and it's unlikely that your intranet maybe will be doing quite as much as it was even just a few years ago. We've certainly seen a shift in our clients where they were looking at project spaces or ways to be able to manage those sorts of things within the intranet, but that's now been picked up and shifted into Microsoft Teams. So collaboration is an area actually where we're seeing fewer intranets doing those sorts of things. Even innovation is now something that can be done through Yammer or through Microsoft Teams. But then finding and sharing, so actually searching across a digital workplace, that's absolutely something that an intranet needs, because you need to be able to search what's on there. But then also beyond that, it's not just about searching for those siloed bits of information. It's trying to go beyond and find everything across a digital workplace, potentially, if you wanted to do that. And it's something that SharePoint and Microsoft Search does very well. Then business applications is another area where it could be wholly owned by an intranet. So if you're a smaller company and you want to run everything through an intranet, you might set up uniform ordering forms or ways to view pay slips through the intranet, or it may be something that's done somewhere else. So an integration is actually something that you're looking for in a little bit more detail. And then agile working is the last area. So that's around frontline workers in particular. So how will they actually integrate and work with your digital workplace? How do they have a digital employee experience that fits in with their normal day-to-day general employee experience? But then it's also around physical workplaces, and as while that might be how they people book a meeting room, which would be nothing to do with an intranet, for example, it could be digital screens as well. So actually spreading your communication out of Communicate and Engage into those sorts of screens and getting it out there. So that's how we look at a digital workplace and frame the kind of digital employee experience around that. And I just want to touch briefly on what digital employee experience is not in the context of platforms. So we have named our latest research report intranets and employee experience platforms because it is a bit of a buzzword at the moment. And it implies if you have an employee experience platform, that it's going to deliver the employee experience for the entire company, which it's probably not going to do. I mean, just for us, ClearBox is a small company. There's only a few of us that work, but every day I use a different sets of tools. I have at least 5 that I use every day. So that is my digital workplace. That is my digital employee experiences across all of those things. And so as this is a buzzword, and as vendors promote themselves as a digital employee experience platform, it's a little bit misleading, and it's giving rise to confusion, I think, in the marketplace as people try to find the right solutions. There are all of these claims. It's also being kind of exacerbated by it not being just the digital workplace industry either. So HR systems are kind of getting in on this term, and
Sure.
Broader IT systems as well. So there's a little bit of a clash between which tools are going to be doing what, and they're all trying to expand their feature set to make themselves more appealing, to do, oh, look, we do all of these things. We're even more better value for money than we were before because we can do absolutely everything that you might conceive that we could do on a learning management system. So what's really important now is thinking about your digital workplace and all of those tools that you have and how they overlap, which ones are the right ones to do what, and to bear in mind that you're probably not going to have one system that will do everything. One system might do a lot, but probably not everything.
Love it. Oh, excellent analogy. I added a little sidebar comment. James, you've done this radar analogy before with planes. And when I saw the planes on your picture, I was like immediately thinking of that excellent analogy as well. Well, what I'll do is I'll quickly summarize, what we've seen from an industry perspective. I think Jacob Morgan has a pretty well-known book on the subject of employee experience advantages and things like that. And the way he describes it, and I'm simplifying this, is essentially 3 environments that reaffirm each other. They reinforce one another. And you need to plan for all 3 of the environments: the physical environment, the cultural environment, the technological environment. And I just wanted to dig in on change that's happened, right? So as mentioned with hybrid work and the acceleration that's done, I would suggest that the physical environment, while still important, isn't as important strategically as it used to be. And so you think of like, a new employee coming in, right, for your first interview, that lobby experience mattered. Now you don't have that for a lot of these remote interviews and things like that. So the culture and the technological environments matter a little bit more in that scenario, or at least they take the place of the physical environment in some of those scenarios, depending on, where the employee is being interviewed. So we've seen change here, and when we think of the technological environment, what we found is that there's a bunch of different gaps in understanding here. So one of the patterns, and I totally agree with this, James, you mentioned this. Sometimes a methodology can be a technological innovation, like Agile, and that methodology is arguably, in this example, a technological, environment aspect, and it absolutely makes us have a better employee experience. Someone who works in an Agile environment versus a non-Agile environment, especially especially today, would probably find that that's a preferred environment. At the same time, there's technologies at play that improve the experience. So one way we felt has helped with other customers around kind of making sense of this very big technological environment space or digital employee experience space is to focus on 3 categories. So today we're literally talking about employee communications, but we actually think it's useful sometimes to think about the difference, and there's quite a few, between employee communication versus collaboration. And more recently, especially in the near term, we've been doing a lot more management experiences because as employees have shifted to remote work, digital management experiences have become more and more prevalent as important tools in the tool set. So we'll have 2 other sessions today on the other 2, but I just wanted to give a bit of that coloring, that different perspective on top of what you guys have done, and that I think we all agree this is the #1 priority for most organizations today, just like succinctly was stated.